All right. So lastly here, we're going to talk about table views. We've got 35 minutes. We'll do what we can. Okay. So during the break, I really quickly created a button down here called Cat Facts. And the idea is that this button will push or present, if you will, a new view controller, which currently is just an empty view controller, right? So let's go ahead and talk about table view controller or table views, right? So boop, boop, boop. Just going to close some stuff just so we're only dealing with a few things. All right. So one thing that we're going to do is have a new view controller that we're going to. Cool. Great. Okay. So this will be Cat Facts view controller. Okay. This is where we're going to have a list of cat facts. Yay. Wonderful. Okay. So we'll create first we'll import UIKit. We'll create a class called Cat Facts view controller, right? And it inherits from UI view controller. Cool. We will have a list of cat facts, okay? And this is going to be an array of strings. And we will say fun facts about cats, like, did you know that cats live up to 5 years longer on average when they are limited to being indoors? Did you know that cats blink slowly to indicate affection? Did you know that my cat has stinky poos, etc.? So these are cat facts. Cool. We've got it. So now we're going to display these in a table view. Now, a table view is essentially a list, right? It is a set of rows, one after the other. It is a very, very simple kind of thing. You've seen them everywhere in Apple's stuff. They use them constantly, okay? So we're going to be using one ourselves, creating one ourselves. So we can close that now. So here we are. We have our cat fact, etc., right? So let's go ahead and override our view did load, like so. Now, there are kind of two ways to have a table view. We're going to do the one way that's the kind of less common way, right? Just because it gives you a little bit more clarity in how table views work, and it's also what I'm asking you to do in the assignment. So, it's more helpful than doing it the other way, okay? But just know that if your view controller, if what you're displaying on the screen is only just the table view, and it's just only the table view and that's it, nothing else on the screen except for like the navigation stuff, like the back button and the title and whatnot, right? Then you can inherit from UI table view controller, and this will all be, it would be a little bit simpler to do, right, than what we're doing here. But for now, this is what we're gonna do, okay? So first of all, let's go ahead and create a table view. So let's call this let table view UI table view equals UI table view, like so. Okay, so we create a table view. Great, cool. We will add it as a subview to our root view. Add subview, table view. Cool. We will do some constraints because, of course, we will. And this will be table view dot top to view dot top, table view dot bottom, view dot bottom, table view dot leading to view dot leading, and this is just going to have it fill up everything. But obviously, because we're doing it like this, because it's a table view, you do not have to constrain to exactly every edge, right? In fact, you probably won't want to, because otherwise you just use a UI table view controller, which by default has as its root view a table view, right? So this is all kind of done automatically by that, right? But because we're doing it like this, we could have the table view only cover half of the screen if we so chose, right? So cool, we've got our table view. Great. Okay, we have our cat facts. Awesome. Okay, how do we display them? How do we even do a thing with this, right? There's a lot that goes into it, but essentially the way that TableView works primarily is through something called its delegate and its data source, okay? So if you go to TableView, you can say delegate, right? And this is a property that you set, okay? And then there's also TableView.dataSource, all right? These both use what's called the delegate pattern. Now, typically, the owning view controller will act as the delegate and data source for a table view. That is not always the case. It's not guaranteed to be true, right? So, but it's something that you can set, okay? Now, here it's yelling at us because we're not CatFacts view controller does not conform to the UI table view delegate protocol, right? So we need to conform to it. So let's go ahead and do an extension on our CatFacts view controller, and we will do UI table view delegate, like so. And then we will also do that separately, UI table view data source, like so, okay? Now, okay, cool. It's still yelling at us. Why is it yelling? Well, there's some protocol functions that we haven't implemented, right? And that's these. So we need to implement these, okay? These are absolutely required. This is the data source. It is providing all of the information that is going to appear in our table view. That's the idea. So the data source has the info. It's got the data, right? Makes sense. Okay, so we've got this number of rows in section int, right? This only matters if you're using sections, okay? For the simplest kind of table view, which is what we're building, we don't need to worry about sections. It's all in one section. This will always be called with section of value 0. What we care about is the size of our data set, which is this CatFacts variable, okay? So we know that we have 3 CatFacts right now, and this is asking how many rows are there in our first and only section, right? And the answer is always going to be the size of the array. There are 3 rows. There are 3 CatFacts. If we added another, this would then increase to 4, right? If we removed one, it would be 2. But we don't have to worry about that because we're programmers and we use variables, right? So, awesome, that's done. Okay, what about this one? Table view, cell for row at, index path, blah, 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 right? What this function does is it constructs a view that gets put in as a row in your table view. And these are called table view cells. Table view cells are what table views display, okay? Now, you can set, like a table view cell is just a view, it's a type of view, so you can you can add subviews, and you can just add any custom view you want in there, right? You could add a custom view to its subviews, right? However, there are a few kind of preset sort of table view cell types that just tend to get used a lot, right? The kind where there's like a title and a little subtitle and then a detail accessory, and that's it, right? You've seen that everywhere in the settings in your iPhone, right? So we can just use that to start with, right? So here, okay, table view cell, cool. So we're gonna say let cell equals UI table view cell, right? And then we'll say style, okay? And this is a style, so it's an enum, so we can just pick, we'll go with default, a text label, black, left aligned with an optional image view. Great. We could do a subtitle one if we want, left aligned, right, label with a smaller subtitle, but we don't have a subtitle situation here, right? We're just showing one piece of text. Then there's this reuse identifier, okay? It's optional, so you don't technically need to provide it, okay? But you should. You absolutely should. So we're just going to call this a CatFact, okay? Don't worry about it, right? And now we can return cell, okay? That's it. That's all you have to do in here, okay? But it is not what you should do in here. what you need to do in here is engage with something, with a function called, on the table view that gets passed in to this delegate, okay? So this table view gets passed in, and it has on it a function called DQ, reusable cell with identifier. And what this does is make sure that if you have 100 cells, 200 cat facts, 300, 4,000 cat facts, right? That instead of loading all of them into memory and every single view into memory, what UIKit does is it only loads what's visible, and then it only loads things in a margin on either side off the edge of the screen. And it creates a pool of cells. So every time a new cell gets instantiated, if that cell then goes off the screen, it can be reused later on, okay? So in this case, we have this cell, and this will return a cell, right? So we could say here, if let reused cell equals this, right? Then go away. Then we can set cell to reused cell. And otherwise, we create a new one, okay? And what this will do, because we are using the same identifier here as we are using here, it will search for cells that were created with this identifier that are no longer on the screen, and it will use them to, basically display. But that means that if you just return the cell here just like this, they will, in fact, have the same data on them, which you don't want. Nobody wants that, right? We need to configure the cell next, okay? So this is going to be where you get into things like creating custom UI views, UI table view cells, right? Custom UI views of yours that extend UI table view cell, right? You can also just create a UI view, like a custom UI view, and then set it for the content view, right? So you can say like content view.add subview, my custom view, right? Like that, you know. That said, you'd only want to do that here, because if you did it out here, you'd do that every time the cell got reloaded, right? So within this else here, you can do, you can set the custom view, and then out here, you would need to configure the custom view, right? So you need to get access to the instance within. It would be like cell.contentView dot, subviews, and then you'd like, search, right? Like you'd say like dot first where, the type, right? Like, view, view dot type equals like my custom view dot self or something like that, right? And then, with it, then what gets returned from here, right, is like, your thing, whatever, right? Luckily, we're not doing that. That's very complicated. We don't have to mess with that because we are using a existing kind of cell, right? We're using the default kind of table view cell, okay? So the default kind of table view cell has a large content title, right? So we can, and I think it has, does it have a text label? Right, we use a UI list content configuration, right? So it has, so it's like button now, right? Where you have a content configuration that you set, right? And this is UI list content configuration dot. And so you can kind of, create sort of a default, one here to use. And this would be, again, this would be something you'd only want to do once, because here you're instantiating something, okay, which you only want to do one time if you can avoid it. And now we can say content configuration dot text. Where's the what is it? Sorry, bear with me. Trying to remember the exact place where you edit the text. I'm pretty sure it's on the content configuration, but hold on, sorry. Header, make content. All right, we're gonna quickly pop over and take a look on the internet. Our good old friend, the internet. All right, UI, so we're gonna look at UI table view cell here. This should give us some of the information we need. Filling a table with data, cool, yep, all this stuff, yeah, they'll tell us a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily need immediately. Appearance of the rows, cool, great. Okay, here we go, DQ reusable cell, blah, 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 for index path, text label.text. Okay, but the text label they said was deprecated. Right. Okay, cool. So their so their documentation is out of date. All right, so let's look at instead their documentation for the where is it? Is it nearby? No, it's not. UI list content configuration. This. Okay. All right, so default content configuration. Content image, text. Oh, okay, I see. So the issue is, I think, cell.default content configuration. Oh, interesting. Okay. Weird. All right, so sorry about that. Here we go. So we're going to create a config. Cell.content default content configuration. Then we do config.text equals my text. That's just for now. And then we are going to then set it back. And the reason we're setting it back is because we should make that a var so that it's modifiable. The reason we're setting it back is because this configuration is a struct type, right? And because it's a struct, that means that if we get it out like this, what we have in here is a copy. It's not the actual one on the cell. So any changes we make, we have to basically save by resetting it back in, okay? Cool. All right, so here we are. We have this cell for row at, index path, blah, 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 return cell. Okay, cool. So we've got everything, I believe. Was there anything else? No. Okay. So now let's go ahead and double check here, right? And we'll see filling a table with data, okay? And there's number of rows in section, right? And number of sections, of course, but we don't have to worry about that because it is by default, I believe, 1 at minimum. Boop, boop, boop. Here's our cell for row at, DQ, blah, blah, blah. And actually, is this basic style cell? Yeah, okay. Prefetch data, etc. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so at this point in time, we would expect to be seeing a table view here. We're not seeing one. So let's go ahead and set the background color just to make sure it's actually here in our preview. And it looks like it isn't, right? So we're not seeing it in here at all. And now let's just go ahead and make sure our preview is working. Set our background color to red. Okay, so that is working, right? But the table view is not properly showing up inside of our view, right? So we've constrained it, so let's take a look. Table view top, right? Bottom, leading, trailing. So rather than doing it like this, maybe we need to do it with the center X and center Y version instead. So we'll do that. Like so. That. And then we will also set the width so, and the height. Like so. And it's still not appearing, which is just wonderful, right? So maybe there's a function in the delegate that we haven't implemented, right? So typically the functions all start with TableView, which is nice because you can type TableView and then you'll see this, right? But the delegate is mostly for interacting with your TableView, right? It's mostly for saying, oh, cool, I'm gonna look at it and see what kind of thing it is. And actually, I think we didn't pick a style, did we? So that's probably what it is. Yeah. So we're gonna create a frame of 0, and then we'll pick a style of plain, right? And then the constraints go and all that stuff, and there's still nothing here. Goodness gracious me. Okay. The joys of live demos, if you will. We're gonna take a quick peek at. I wish that I could see the view stack. That would be super helpful. And we are doing this. Yes. Okay. Frame is 0. Blah blah blah. Table view. Blah 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 blah. Adding it. Delegate self. We can take a look. They did say that the sections. That's in delegate, isn't it? Where is it? Sorry, there's like a million of these. These things provide a million methods, so bear with me as I try and remember exactly which ones must be set for it to work correctly. Section for section. No. Okay. All right. Func table view. This is one of those things that you kind of end up doing every time you do table views, These are all the same, which is weird. They shouldn't be. They should be different based on which one we're in. Here, I have a working one that I can use. Here. So we can figure this out. We'll figure out what's going on. Now we're detectives. Where's our table view? Okay. Did select row, title for, number of, it's called number of sections. Of course it is. There it is. Interesting, failed to build. Why was that? Okay, whatever, that's fine. Cat facts, etc. Where do we define our table view? These are all the delegates. So many delegates. Frame 0, style plain, sure. And that's it. Wait. No, history view. Delegate. Select row, sure. Arrange subviews, okay. Width anchor, yep. And that's it. Okay, yeah. So I have no idea what's going on, which is great. Great news for you, great news for me. We're all having a great time. What is this? Grouped? I mean, that's not going to change anything. Okay, what if we add just a regular UI view as well? I shouldn't call that view. I should call that test view. Test view. And we will make this red, like so. And then now let's just sub this out to see if it's a constraints problem. And it looks like it's a constraints problem, which is really interesting to me. Okay, so let's dive into that. So view, oh my, none of you reminded me to translate auto resizing mask to false. Okay, this is on you and me, but also you. I said it 20 times. I said it 10 times. If I said it one time, I said it a million times. Okay, that's exactly what this is. Oh, piss. Come on. All right, here we go. There we go. Get rid of it. I'll do it the safe way. I'll Control Z it. Okay. All right, here we go. This will solve our problem. Translates auto resizing mask into constraints equals false. There we go. Oh, what's this? Oh, wow. Oh, I guess I Control Z did too far. There we go. All right, now we should be fine. There it is. Magical. Oh, man. All right, so here we've got our rows. Look at them. They're all row-like, okay? We'll zoom in a bit because this is kind of a bit small. Okay, so got to translate your auto-resizing masks, people. Never forget. Never forget. 2025. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag never forget. Okay, so we have these. Cool. Great. Here's our rows. Awesome. Here's our text. Okay, but how do we get it to show our cat facts, right? We're here for cat facts. That's what we want, right? Well, our cat facts are already strings, and they're already an array. An array is ordered. Remember that. When you're dealing with a table view, you want your data to be ordered, okay? So if you're using a set or using a dictionary, right, then you need to make sure that you sort those whenever you are accessing them, because basically they are not ordered. Their order is not guaranteed, okay? So, but when you're dealing with this, order matters. And the reason it matters is because when you come into this function, right, table view, cell for row at index path, index path. This index path variable has the row number and the section number, okay? Now, we're not messing around with sections right now, but that's a fun, bonus exploration for you in the assignment if you want. But basically, it would be like section 0, row 2, right? Or section 3, row 5, or section 4, row 1, right? And that's just basically the rows within the sections. That's it, right? So we know that we want our very first cat fact to show on top, and our second cat fact to show after that. So it sounds a lot like we want to take basically the index path and use it as an index in our array. So we have our cat facts array, like so, and we have our index path. And index path is not the correct type to pass in, of course, because it has a section and a row information. So you need to say .row. And all of a sudden our cat facts appear magically. Look at these. Look at these facts. Aren't they wonderful? You can click on them and all sorts of cool stuff. All right. Fun other things, right? If you want something to happen when you click on a particular row, okay, there is a function called TableView did select row at index path, okay? So once again, you're getting an index path, you're getting a table view, right? And this is just an opportunity for you to do something when the user taps on the thing. If what you do is show a new view controller, okay, then you have done one of the most common things that table views are used for. They are used as menus very frequently, okay? And they also have a kind of built-in thing, cute little kind of built-in thing, that if you want to have if your cell, table view cell, is navigating the user somewhere else, usually it is Apple's convention to have the accessory type. The accessory types are basically these like kind of tiny little cute little icons that show up on the far right side of your cell, okay? So for here, if you have a disclosure indicator, that's what they call it, a disclosure indicator. Don't ask me why. You get these little arrows. You know what these are. You've seen these your whole life. maybe not your whole life, but for a good portion of it, right? These mean you click on this and you go somewhere. Never use these arrows if you're not going somewhere, okay? Clicking on these when there's arrows here and not going somewhere is the worst feeling in the world for me right now. I feel sad because these arrows don't take me somewhere, okay? So make sure that you only use disclosure indicators if you're going somewhere. You can also have a detail button, right? You've seen these, right? There's a detail disclosure button, which is like a combo of the two, right? And you always miss the I. Am I right? You always miss the I and then hit the actual row and then accidentally, go to the next screen. And you have to go back and hit the I again, right? Whatever. Anyway, so these are cat facts. Cool. And then yeah, in here, if you want to go somewhere, you can, do the thing where you say UI view controller, right? Show VC self. Like so, right? And then because we're going somewhere, we should set our accessory to disclosure indicator, right? And now we're going, and it's displaying some empty nonsense, right? And if we wanted to, push that specifically, right, then we'd want to make sure that we were inside of a navigation controller, right? Like so. And now when you do it, it kind of does this, right? It looks weird because, this view controller's view background is not set to white, right? So set that to white, cool. We can add a sub view that's like a UI label, right? And I guess we'd have to let label equals UI label dot text equals my new view, whatever, right? Label like this, right? So now, when you go there might be a label visible. I don't think it will be because we haven't set up the constraints and stuff. Yeah, it's not there. That's fine, right? Point being, you can set up and configure view controllers that you're going to. You can set up and configure view controllers that you subclass from, and then you don't have to do it every time you go, right? And so on. So here, actually, what we can do is do more cat facts because everyone loves cat facts. So we can just go cat facts on cat facts on cat facts on cat facts. And then we'd have to go back as many cat facts as we clicked, right? So, if you would like to unsubscribe from cat facts, please click on a cat fact. I'd like to unsubscribe. Right? Okay, cool. That's table views, okay? There are, as you saw, so many more methods in the data source and delegate. There's stuff for editing these items, deleting them. There's stuff for changing their height. There's stuff for acting before they get selected. There's stuff for acting after they get selected. There's stuff for if they get highlighted. There's like a million things that you can do with table views, right? Because they've been around since about 2011. So anyway, so that's table views. Any questions about table views before I talk to you about your assignment? Cool. All right, so the assignment. I guess I'll just go here. It's fine. Your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to upgrade your counter app to now make new counters, have a custom counter view, navigate to a counter view controller that lets you modify one counter specifically for it, and last but not least, have a table view that has a history of counters that you have gone to and edited. And it will look something like this. So you'll have your namespace and key entry and the ability to create. It will respond correctly to the keyboard, which I didn't quite show you, but I'll show you in just 2 seconds. And then when you click on one of these with a disclosure indicator, one of these history things, or click create, or type it in and load it manually because that's just how you roll, it will take you to a new screen where you can modify your counters, okay? This is probably your biggest assignment yet, but it builds on top of 2 previous assignments. So if you did those, you're sitting pretty. If not, that's fine. The quiz will be focused on this stuff. So, okay, real quick, keyboards, right. I completely forgot that I wanted to cover these. So basically when you are creating constraints, that's not what I want. Where is it? Here. When you're creating constraints, boop, boop, boop. So here, for example, when you set it to a particular like margin, right? Like for example, let's say we wanted this instead of the height anchor, we'll say TableView dot bottom anchor dot constraint equals to view dot margin, right? Layout margins guide dot bottom anchor, right? Matching them up like that, right? You can, instead of layout margins guide, you can say dot keyboard layout guide, okay? And what this will do is it will change when the keyboard comes up, when the user starts to edit something, which means that any views that are constrained to this guide, to this bottom anchor guide, right, will move, right, so that when the keyboard comes up, you can still see them. This is something that when I'm messing around with that, when I'm using an app, if the text field I'm editing doesn't slide up to be visible when the keyboard comes up, it drives me insane as a user. It indicates a lack of care from the developer because this is really easy to do. Just set the constraint so that it requires that the keyboard pushes it when it goes up. And if you do it in a stack view, it'll handle it all magically and animate it and everything, right? So if everything's in a stack view and the stack view has its bottom thing set to the keyboard margin, when the keyboard comes up, everything kind of just slides up and then slides down, right? So, cool. Questions about the keyboard layout? Dope. All right, that is class. I am sorry I took you 2 minutes over to get that keyboard thing in, but it's important. Have a good spring break. Enjoy. Have, I don't know, martinis, whatever people drink. Spring break things.